God damn. Anyway. What's up, people? I am back. I'm here to do another video. And I'm finally have arrived at this franchise. I probably was a franchise I wanted to do for a while. But I just, never got the chance to do it. But I'm finally going to do it. We're going to do Ghostbusters. I hate that, right when I was about to do it, Ivan Reitman died. But, R.I.P. But this is one of my favorite movies. I haven't watched it. I watched it around when Afterlife came out. But before that, I watched it like 2 years ago, and I love this movie. I'm not as in love with this movie as like some people are. Like how I love Jurassic Park, people love Ghostbusters. But this movie is definitely one of the best comedies ever made. And this movie, in my humble opinion, is one of those that like I would say Breakfast Club defined the 80s. Like just even like the logo alone, just seeing that ghost or the music, by Ray Parker Jr. You had Bill Murray, you had the Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, Rick Moranis, even though he wasn't like an actual member, and then Ernie Hudson. It was just such a great film. The chemistry between the three of them, and then when Winston eventually comes along, he shows up like midway through the movie, like a large chunk, well not large, but like a chunk of the movie is just the three of them. It's just Venkman, Ray, and Egon. So, but the chemistry they hit, like they're instantly, like I mentioned in the Bill and Ted review. Even though this is the first movie, they do a good job of establishing how, that they've known each other for a long time and that they had already previously worked with each other. The ghosts were great. Sigourney Weaver as Dana was awesome, even though she's in the movie, but then there's a portion where she gets possessed by Zool. So she has to but besides that, she's great in it. The soundtrack is awesome. I love just all around. It's just a fun cast and one of my favorite movies of all time. And I can understand why this movie became a pop culture phenomenon at the time. And I mean, who who you gonna call that was everywhere, even to the point where if you've seen the not the original, but the Casper movie that came out in the late 90s, mid 90s, that the whole Ghostbusters gag, that's how popular it was. They even referenced Ghostbusters in the mid 90s. So, and it's understandable. And it kicked off a great franchise, which some say shouldn't have been a franchise. And a lot of some people out there have issues with Afterlife. I like Afterlife. It's not perfect, but I definitely really do like. And I actually am one who really liked Ghostbusters too. That one I haven't watched. I think I watched before Afterlife, but before that, I think that was even longer since I watched two. Because I mainly watched the first one. But Ghostbusters 2 was really good. I remember really liking it. So I'm definitely going to be reviewing that tomorrow. I'm going to do Afterlife on Saturday. Yeah, I'm just going to do it on Saturday. Fuck it. So it'll be Saturday when I do it. But no, this is an all-around great movie. If I had to especially for comedy, I give this a film a 10. Especially for comedy, that's a rarity. There's only a few comedies I think I can think of that are a full-on 10, but this is definitely one of them. Just even the chemistry alone between the team, and then the set pieces, and yeah, some of the CGI in some scenes is wonky, but it still holds up as a film, and that's why even today, it's a pop culture phenomenon. So, but let's kick off the review. So the film kicks off. We're in the library. We get the the Ghostbusters song kicked in, kicks in for a bit. And another aspect, yeah, it's a comedy, but it's not like a slapstick comedy either. Like, there are some scenes where the movie plays like straightforward, like the dogs, especially as a kid, I can see that's scaring kids. Like if you're young, like they play it straight. So the movie opens up in the library. We see a ghost attack the library, and the librarian enlists Columbia Columbia University professors Peter Venkman, which is Bill Murray, Ray Stantz, which is Dan Aykroyd, and Harold Ramis as Egon Spangler. And they go to the library. This is where we get our first shot of the ghost, which I actually think the ghost looked pretty good. Like I said, some of the CGI, like CGI, but like when the ghost and like even like some of the scenes with the dogs, like when they move, it looks wonky at times, but it's fine. It's 1984, and I look at it this way. I mean, that same year, I love the first Terminator, but there's wonky CGI moments in that movie too. Like especially when it's full on Enzo skeleton. So it's just, and I look at it like they probably didn't get a giant budget for this movie because this is when movies didn't have like giant budgets. So after their first encounter with the ghost chases them out. They end up getting the dean ends up firing them and dismissing basically because they were getting funded for their science, but the dean takes their money and basically fires them. They end up the trio decides we get a scene between Peter and Ray. This is where they form the Ghostbusters. This is where we get our introduction of Dana. Like, and the other thing about this movie, it's paced perfectly. Like it's all like it's about like an hour and 40, but it's paced perfectly. There's not a scene where I'm like, okay, let's keep going. And this is where we meet Dana, but we also meet Luis, who's played by Rick Moranis, who's fucking great. Like the other aspect is with his character. Yeah, he's kind of like a bumbling kind of nerd character, but he's not overly like slapsticky. Like I'm always mentioned, especially with comedies, they knew how to like pace themselves. Like it wasn't just overly slapstick, and because there's moments in this movie where you could say it is scary, especially when we get to the final act or even the scene. I know I'm gonna jump ahead a bit, but when the dog is chasing Luis, after the party, that scene's kind of scary. Like because it's just like there's no jokes. He's just running for his life. So, and then definitely like the final confrontation when they confront Zool or Dozer, I think, if I remember right, is the villain's name. But or Gozer, not Dozer. But yeah. Like that, there's some scary moments in it. Like, and another thing why it worked too is, yeah, like you have Egon and Ray who are actually into ghosts, and initially Peter's like the sketchy, skeptical one who's like kind of almost looks at them like they're fucking crazy every time. But it wasn't until that scene where he got that confirmation, and even then, like you could tell like when they initially formed the Ghostbusters, it was almost like just a money thing, and wanted to get like a fuck you to the college, but so they end up, and then we get the scene where they capture their first ghost, which is the iconic Slimer ghost, which looked really good, and then they finally catch the ghost. I think like the scenes when they're shooting the beams, from the proton packs actually look great, and once again, this is a thing I always mention. Even though this movie's like, there's no super big concept like let's say a Jurassic Park, like where they explain how the proton pack works and all that. They explain it perfectly to where, like I said, I always bring this up with movies like this. They knew how to explain concepts, but not make them overly complicated, but also not just make it superly dumb. So like the audience can easily understand. They made it to where you can understand, but it's still like not complicated, but it's still like almost complicated, but you still can understand it too. So they end up capturing the ghosts, and then they become like a pop culture phenomenon. Um, and um, Dana returns to her apartment, and she sees one of the dogs in her refrigerator. So she enlists the help of because she's a cellist. She enlists the help of the Ghostbusters, and they mention Zool. And pretty much this is where Vinkman like starts having a thing. So while Ray and Egon are researching Zool, um, Vinkman goes back to Dana goes with Dana back to her apartment. He initially is like skeptical and doesn't believe her, but he still wants to work with her because he clearly has a thing for her. And they're not like movies like this. They don't want me, because the romance is coming, but it's done in a way like where obviously they start off like, oh, she's initially not into him. So after sending him away, they become. So yeah, this is where they become famous. And this is where Winston gets hired. And Janine is a fucking great character as their fucking God, I don't know why I went blank, but I know what it is, but where is she? Fuck. Anyway, I'll just skip over that. But she's a great character. She's not, she's always getting a couple of scenes, but so yeah, Winston gets hired pretty much immediately. And then this is where we meet Walter Peck, who I remember watching this movie. I didn't remember this dude was in this movie, but I remember recognizing him because William Atherton is his name. He was in you may know him from Die Hard. He's the sleazy journalist that got punched by Holly McClane in the end of the movie. So but it's just I didn't recognize him at first, is because I recognized his face, but I'm like, oh, he has a beard. That's why, because he didn't have a beard. But yeah, I think he does. I can understand why they because this was before Die Hard. It was like 4 years before Die Hard. I can understand why he was cast. He plays a good sleazy asshole. I mean, even in this movie, he's a sleazy asshole because he just wants he wants to evaluate their equipment, but Peter makes fun of him and kind of kicks him out, and then and the containment unit that then there's a scene where Egon tells the group that the containment unit they're using is reaching capacity. So Peter talks with Dana about Zool. Gives the background that Zool is a demigod. And we get the whole we get the backstory, but it's explained in a way that's kind of done in a funny way. And then Peter says they'll talk. He basically asks her out. She says yeah. Then I think we see like her fellow cello player. I don't remember the dude's name, but yeah, so we only see him for that scene, and then that's it. But then that night, because she's getting ready for her date, while Luis is throwing like a party next door, she says, yeah, me and him will probably visit. Me and her and Peter will visit. Then while she's in her apartment, Zool takes her or Gozer takes her. Um, Basically, while one of the dogs attacks the party, chases Luis down, and I actually genuinely like this scene. Yeah, this is one of the scenes where I thought the CGI looked kind of wonky. Like when the dog is in like just standing there, it's like the animatronics are great. It's just when it's like running, I thought, okay, it looks a little not oof, but it looks a little wonky, but it's fine. Like it doesn't ruin the movie or anything. Um, so the dog ends up possessing Lewis, and he's the gatekeeper, while Zool I think it was Gozer who possesses her, possesses Dana. Vinkman arrives and realizes she's possessed, while Egon, um, because police bring a possessed Lewis to the station, or the Ghostbusters station, while Egon basically tries to do some research on him. And they have to try to keep while on a phone call with Meekman, they both agree that they got to keep Dana and Louis separate, because if they come together, basically bad things will happen. Then Peck returns with law enforcement and basically a warrant, forces his way in, and forces one of the workers to turn off the containment unit, which ends up releasing all the ghosts, and all the ghosts are escaping this basically bunch of spiritual energy. Because initially Dana was because Vinkman mentioned he gave her a bunch of like, I think I forgot what the exact pill was, but like basically makes her go sleeping pills, I think it was. But she ends up waking up upon the release of the ghosts, and the Keymaster arrives, and they basically turn that apartment into a this is where we get the reveal of Gozer. So initially, the Ghostbusters are arrested, but then the mayor enlists their help, and they end up, and then this is where we get the iconic that it's true, sir. The man has no that man has no dick. That's where we get that from. That's where we get that scene. Like, and that's what I love about this movie is the comedy's like it's a comedy, but it also is a serious. It is like a end of the world type of movie. All of a sudden, like at least the ending, it kind of turns into that. So they come together, and they end up confronting the ghost. End up confronting Dana. And then this is where Gozer appears in her form, attacks the team, and they try to shoot at her, but they miss. And then this is where Ray ends up fucking up and envisioning the Stay an old mascot he liked, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And this is where we get the iconic Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, which actually the effects for this was actually done well. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like not stop motion, but maybe some of it was. I wouldn't be surprised, but it was done very well. And the team end up crossing the streams with their proton packs, which, you know, this is where the whole don't cross the streams comes from. So they end up using their energy beams to destroy the gate. And then they rescue Dana and Lewis. And then this is where the song kicks in, and they pretty much are official. And then the film ends. I really like this movie. This is one of my favorite movies, and this is one of those like quintessential 80s movies. And I would probably maybe do a rank, either a ranking or like my favorite. '80s movies. Like the thing is, it's gonna be hard because there's so many movies from the '80s I love. God damn helicopter. Sorry. But yeah, because and this would definitely be on there. This would have to be top five at least because this movie is quintessential '80s. The chemistry between Egon, um, Ray, and Peter, and then when Winston comes along, who even though he's not in the whole movie, he like shows up midway through. He feels like he's been there the whole time. It's just so perfect. Janine was funny. Um, it's such a good movie. Just the chemistry, the soundtrack. I thought Zool, was a solid villain. The dogs looked dope, and I can understand even as a kid, the dogs look scary. Honestly, like they have like the design is really good, and it's just a simple movie. And I think that's one thing about these movies, especially a lot of the movies, like the ones I super love, is simplicity. And I think this is part of it, and that's what makes this movie so good. And this is like a movie that became a cultural phenomenon that started like a franchise. Yeah, we got Shitbusters 2016, but we can let's just act like that didn't happen. But we got a solid trilogy. You know, I'm one who really liked Ghostbusters too, so I'm going to be watching that tomorrow and reviewing it. But Ghostbusters 1, though, I don't think can be topped. And I can agree with people, even people who like, I like 2 and I like Afterlife, but I got to agree with this that the first one is a lightning in a bottle. And it was. Because this was like me, Bill Murray at his prime. You had Dan Aykroyd at his prime. I mean, he had already done Trading Places like I think the year before. So it's like he's already done like a couple of movies by this point, But I think like one of the things is the chemistry. Like I think if they had, I feel like this movie. Who's to say? I don't think it would have worked if it was anybody else there. If they got just a random group of 4 guys, I don't. That wouldn't have worked. I think that's what made this is the chemistry and even Walter Peck. That guy William Atherton plays a good sleazy asshole. Like he's a good, like punchable guy. Like God damn, I want this motherfucker to get punched in the face. But yeah, it's an all around great movie. It's all I can really say. It's one of those movies that it speaks for itself. Ivan Reitman, his directing is incredible in this movie, and Sigourney Weaver's great. I mean, I'll always love Sigourney Weaver in Alien, but it's always cool to see her in other movies, because there's nothing wrong with that. So, if I already mentioned, for comedy especially, I definitely give this film a 10 out of 10. So, heavily recommend. If you're one of those who's never seen this movie, do it. Because I think it's one of those movies, even if you're younger or and on, I really think you can enjoy Ghostbusters. The comedy works. It's not overly comedic either. And I do think in the second one they do amp up the slapstick a bit, but it's still not overly. Especially this one, though, what made this one, it is a comedy, but when those scary, because it's not scary, but like, especially, I mean, but as a kid, I could see it being scary. Like, it's still treated seriously. Like, they're still trying to save the world, or at least New York. I don't know, but like it wasn't like treated like a joke, and I think that's one of the reasons like it was a lightning in a bottle. Because I feel like if they made it now, oh my god, it would not work. But yeah, definitely a 10 out of 10 film, a classic in every sense of the word. Heavily recommend. But I'm gonna take my final hit and cheers to this movie. Tomorrow I'm gonna be doing Ghostbusters 2. I really do like Ghostbusters 2. I'll admit the villain isn't as good, and I kind of don't like as much as I like. I think it was Bobby Brown who they got to do the song for that one. I like Bobby Brown, but personally, they should have just kept the. I think I could be wrong, but maybe I think they probably played in the beginning of the second one, but they should have just kept the Ghostbusters song because in my head that's the true theme. It's like when Men in Black 2 when they changed the song and they added like they had somebody else do the theme. It's like no, just keep the song. Like that's to me Ghostbusters theme is Ray Parker Jr. Sorry, that's just how I see it. So, but other than that, I really do like Ghostbusters too. And you could tell like they genuinely like working with each other. And I think the only aspect I don't really like is the villain. I don't think the villain's that strong. It's just generic ghost guy. But aside from that, I still think it's a solid flick. But I'm gonna cheers and peace out. But as usual, I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Fuck Warner Brothers. Fuck Disney. Fuck LeBron. Fuck Colin Kaepernick. Fuck Seth Rogen. Fuck Joy Reid. And fuck the Biden administration. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. I already said that already, but peace.